Hello, and welcome to Career Infusion. I'm your host, Tracy Kane Lofty. Career Infusion is a weekly program that is streamed live from the Vision Live recording studio in Washington, D.C. Today's presentation focuses on success in the culinary arts, and I am so very pleased to have Jerome Grant, who is the executive chef of Sweet Home Cafe at the historic National Museum of African American History and Culture. Grant's culinary interest peaked at a very young age. Learning the basics of Filipino cuisine from his mother, after graduating from high school, Grant attended the Pennsylvania Culinary Institute. Upon receiving his degree in 2002, Grant moved to St. Croix. Shortly thereafter, he was named the best new chef in St. Croix in 2004. In 2005, Grant opened the Mix Lounge in St. Croix as part owner and executive chef. Grant returned to the United States and accepted a role as executive sous chef to open Urbana Restaurant in the Hotel Palomar in Washington, D.C. In 2008, Grant joined the Jeromes Cafe team as sous chef, where he played a critical role in receiving the 2012 Grammy for Best Casual Restaurant. In 2014, Grant was tapped as the executive chef there, and after 2 successful years was enlisted to serve as the inaugural executive chef of the Sweet Home Cafe. Grant and his recipes have been featured in the Washington Post, Time Magazine, the New York Times, Washington Magazine, Bon Appetit Magazine, National Geographic, and Travel and Leisure Magazine, among other notable publications. He has also appeared on ABC's The Chew, as well as international television and radio shows. Welcome, Jerome.
Thank you for having me.
So, Jerome, so many of us were excited when the museum opened, and just about everyone has waited in line for some really good down-home cooking.
Yes.
So I would like to know, how do you decide what the menu is going to be? And actually on this show, for our listeners, we're going to talk about his current success as well as his actual journey to success in the culinary arts. So in your current position as executive chef, how do you select the menu?
For us, we've been working on this project for the past 2 years prior to even the museum opening. So there was a lot of research done by our culinary team where we traveled a lot, troubleshot a lot of recipes, and really worked alongside like Dr. Jessica Harris on, how are we going to promote and showcase, African American food. Once we got that down, we pretty much really looked at the regions and focused on, seasonal and traditional dishes as well as, historic dishes of the past. And, really went from there and, modified it to best serve us and as well as our guests.
Okay, and how do you maintain the quality?
A lot of hard work. Not only is myself there at the cafe, but I also have 2 other sous chefs. Like I said, we've been working on our core recipes for the past 2 years, so it's just troubleshooting them, figuring out how we could actually get them done in a timely fashion. What we've done is we've taken ideally small batch cooking and try to figure out how we could do it for the masses, but without lacking quality as well as integrity in the dish. And it's an everyday it's an everyday job. We look at troubleshooting each dish every day. Working the line, seeing how we could get it out to our guests and what we can do to continue to improve, our style of service. Mm-hmm. So it's an everyday thing.
Okay, and so you train your staff, and about how many staff do you have under you?
I have about 30 in the kitchen.
Mm-hmm. And they are trained, and you keep them up on the latest trends?
Yes. A lot of my cooks actually have worked with me for the past 6-7 years at the American Indian Museum. Other cooks that we have actually were at our existing locations, and they came to help us with the opening of the African American Museum. So it's kind of just building that core staff and kind of continuing to coach and mentor them and help them through these learning times. After that, we look at some of the recipes and we try to adapt them to some of our associates' knowledge. Mm-hmm. Something as simple as our potato salad. we all have our idea of how potato salad is, but it's Miss Dion's potato salad who's always made potato salad for her family, and she has a great recipe. So we look at those types of staples and look at what our cooks could also produce that they're proud of, and we kind of showcase that in our cafe also.
Okay. And what about getting feedback from the those who come to the museum?
Oh yeah, we get a lot of feedback. With that, you take everything that's given to you and you figure out what works for you. A lot of people come in and we're a very opinionated group of people. And, well, we do it like this, or my mom does it like this. Well, that's cool. I enjoy the information, and we look at it and, we see what makes sense. And there's certain things that we just don't do. Just because we don't do what you do in your house doesn't make it, doesn't mean that what we're putting out is not good either.
Right.
So, you have to kind of take those things and take those that bit of information and figure out, what you do retain and what you do just, kind of pass on.
Okay, all righty. Well, we are going to take a quick break, and we will be right back to discuss his journey in the culinary arts. Thank you. Hi, and we are back with Career Infusion. Again, I'm Tracy Lofty with Jerome Grant, who is the executive chef for Sweet Home Cafe at the National Museum of African American History and Culture. And we are very, very delighted to have Jerome in the studio today. This is actually a recording studio, and so hopefully you don't hear any noise in the background, so it's coming from the actual recording studio. But we are going to discuss Jerome's journey in the culinary arts. Now, you are originally a resident of Prince George's County, Maryland.
Yes.
Is that correct?
Yes. My father was in the Air Force, so we travel a lot. and he retired here at Andrews. We've been here in the DC or the PG area for 20 plus years now. So
Okay.
yeah, that's home.
Okay, all right. And when did you begin finding out what your skill was and developing
I've
that
always
skill?
enjoyed cooking. Throughout my life, I'd spend my summers with my grandmother, and she was a phenomenal cook. And my mother, who just enjoyed cooking, would show me how to cook at the same time. And then the crazy thing is, my mother, she always worked two jobs when I was growing up. So it would get to a point to where I was old enough I'd have to cook for myself, and then I'd cook for myself and my father. And I'd learned a little bit that my father would give me, but really watching my mother and my grandmother cook all the time, and I just really enjoyed it. After that, I got into high school, and my mother was like, "Oh, well, you're starting to become your own man," type of thing. And it was like, "Well, we're not giving you allowance anymore." In the ninth grade, you're like, "What am I gonna do?" And so she'd have me go to her job, and I'd actually work with the guys in the back kitchen, making pizzas, flipping burgers, stuff like that. But I really enjoyed it. It was fun, it was cool, and at the same time, I made pretty good money. Going through high school, doing those types of jobs, working kitchen jobs in high school, I just really enjoyed it. I knew I didn't want to go to a 4-year college like a bunch of my other friends. I wasn't really big on continuing that 4-year school path. So I went to culinary school, did 2 years in Pittsburgh, and then came back home. I came back home, worked for a corporate caterer out in Columbia, Maryland, where I started seeing like more of the corporate structure behind working in restaurants. And then honestly, right place, right time. I met a friend that moved to St. Croix, and his parents had actually bought a beach resort out there.
Okay.
And he was like, "Well, if you're not doing nothing this summer, why don't you come down?" Or not even this summer. He was like, "If you're not doing nothing next year, why don't you come down and just work with me for a couple months? I'll put you up and stuff like that on the beach resort." And I was like, "All right, cool." So the first of that year, I literally picked up a duffel bag, threw a pair of shoes in there, and moved 1,666 miles away from Washington, D.C.
What a great place to move.
Yeah, to St. Croix. Worked there for 3 months, got my butt kicked every day. I was working 6-day weeks, 14 hours a day in hot island kitchens where it was just, it was just unbearably hot. At the same time, it was just, nonstop craziness. And then their chef actually left.
Okay.
So he left about the time when I was leaving to come back home. And my buddy was like, "Well, if you want to hang out, you can hang out. And what we'll do is we'll actually, give you a pretty decent salary and kind of make you the chef here. I'll teach you, the financial side of it. Actually learn how to run restaurants, really learn how to learn the inventory and everything like that. And, your own philosophy about food will kind of grow with you as you grow. That
Right.
part, I could show you, you already know the basics, but where you are as a chef, you'll figure that on your own. But the key things that you need to learn is actually learn how to run a business.
Okay.
And he taught me how to run a business from there. The crazy thing, it wasn't, running McDonald's or nothing like that. It was running a $10 million beach resort. And at the age of 21, it's an overwhelming thing.
Right. So you had already completed the 2-year
Yes.
school. And so in the school, I'm curious to know, it taught you more about food preparation, more so than the business side?
Well, it was both of it. It was both ends. The majority of it was like, the introduction to culinary, really learning the basics, how to move in the kitchen, and then, your basic back of house financials, your basic inventory keeping, ordering. But, that can only prepare you but for so much.
Right.
When you walk into a business or you're running a business, it's a difficult thing other than sitting there and actually looking at worksheets like, oh, it's okay, so I add this plus this and I get this percentage. Yeah, but it's a lot more tougher when you have, 30 families relying on you to make sure that you're able to cover costs so they can continue to be employed and at the same time, pushing out good food. So it becomes tough.
Right. So to run a business at such a young age, running the whole financial end of it, I mean, how were you able to really get up to speed? Because I'm sure you had a short turnaround time to do so.
It was difficult. Honestly, it was just getting your butt kicked every day, learning from your mistakes and pushing forward, and never doubting yourself. There were plenty of times where it was just, unbearable. It was too much. But I had, the great support of my best friends growing up, where it was just like, they were pretty excited for me, and they, still to this day they root for me. So it's, I have a great family, I have a great friend base, and that's all I really need.
Okay. And so how long were you in St. Croix?
I was in St. Croix for 5 years.
Okay. And then when did you actually come back to the D.C. area?
I want to say it was 2006. So I came back to D.C. around 2006, and when I left D.C., it was a desolate town for restaurants. We had our franchises. The only things that you had out here were like Jose Andres restaurants and Penn Quarters, and Michelle Richard Citronelle. Other than that, we didn't have these big restaurants. We didn't have this big restaurant boom like we have now. And at that time, we thought in order to find great restaurant success, you have to leave this area and kind of go to other places. I spent a little time in Florida. I bounced around, staging for a bunch of friends throughout different cities. And then I came back home, and it was just like, it was totally eye-opening. Mm-hmm. There were big-time, boutique hotel restaurants coming in. There were restaurants popping up everywhere, not even just, like fine dining or casual dining, but even like fast food. Like, there was everything here. And it was just mind-blowing to me. And then to see this side of the restaurant business versus the island life of it, the hustle and bustle and the pushing it to the max type of thing, it was just totally different for me. And then, super humbling at the same time. You come from an area where you're a big fish in such a small pond. Now you're such a small fish in such a huge pond. Like it kind of messes with you. And for me, it was probably one of the second best experiences that I ever had, was actually coming back home and getting grounded. And, I came back home. I started working for Kimpton Hotels, and we had opened up the Hotel Palomar on 21st and P Street, which to me was like, was one of the biggest openings I ever did, especially because I came back home. And to see what we put in that restaurant and what we had to do to kind of get it up and running. Like, I remember going in there and it was nothing in there. And then actually seeing it built and opening up the first day, and was just like, it was mind-blowing.
And how long were you with the Hotel Palomar?
With them for about 3 years.
Okay. And then you also were with the American Indian
Yes.
Museum as well?
Yep.
So tell us a little bit about that.
So, I had a son, kind of slowed my life down, took a year off. And came back to, realizing that I got to get back into restaurants again. And I actually took a job at the American Indian Museum. I kind of remember when I went there for my first interview, I didn't know it was really in a museum. And I walked in, I was like, oh, great, pizza stations and slop mashed potatoes and stuff like that. And I was like, I guess this is what my life has come to now. And then I walked in, I just seen that they actually really did great food. They spoke about the indigenous people of Americas, and they did, traditional style cooking. Everything was seasonal. Everything was as local as possible. Everything was cooked from scratch. And the crazy thing was they didn't do it for 200 people a day. We were doing it for 1,500, 2,000, 2,200 people.
The masses.
Yeah, the masses, And to really relay these traditional thoughts through food and talk about a culture was just awesome. So I really got intrigued with that. And, throughout my time just working alongside a lot of tribes, we built this whole buffalo exchange where we were buying buffalo from 28 tribes throughout the Midwest, really showcasing Native people as a whole, identifying some of the ingredients that are difficult for you to get, and being able to actually go to these Native tribes and get them and bring them to the museum. And what we did there, we actually transformed museum dining around the world. We were one of the top 10 museum dining destinations.
That's great.
We put out great food. We put out quality food. And it's not just like your run-of-the-mill type of thing where it's just hot dogs and pizzas. We really did it showcasing the culture that we were representing within that location.
Right. And so, again, you had to learn about the culture.
Exactly.
In order to have the food prepared. What is your favorite dish out of everything that you've had created and served? What really is your favorite dish?
Me, personally, I'm a pretty simple guy. I'm more of a chili and cheese dog on a Friday night type of guy, But other than that, I mean, I've seen a lot of amazing things, ate meals in a lot of amazing places. And I honestly couldn't name one thing. It's just, for me, the way that I look at food, it's more of a personal thing. It's where I am. Sorry, it's where I am at that time. It's how I feel at that time. You know, you have rough days. You prefer some of the heavier things, some of the comforting things, or when you're trying to go out and be cool, you eat the little lighter things. You know,
Right.
it's one of those types of things for
Right.
me. You know, go-to dishes is definitely going to my mother's house, and having her cook for me.
Okay. Alrighty. And what is the favorite of
So
your
it's like, you know,
mother's?
like traditional things like chicken adobo, you know, simple things like it's just chicken and rice, you know,
Okay.
but it's something that I grew up with.
Right.
Or going to my grandmother's and having, you know, oxtail and rice and peas. It's those comforting type of things. Or even going to, you know, a friend of mine's parents' house that throw this awesome cookout every year. Which,
So, what has been your greatest challenge as an executive chef?
my greatest challenge, honestly, is just being able to control everything. Um, you know, running the restaurants that I run, you know, they're very big places. We have a lot of associates. You know, we have 20 different personalities. We have 50 million things that are going on, and being able to, you know, supervise all that, coach and grow people, and at the same time talk about the cultures that we're representing. You know, that's what is amazing to me.
Right. Now, you seem very, very calm. So, how do you maintain that calmness under pressure?
You know, it's difficult. You know, for me, it's just it's normal. You continue to push forward. You're able to roll with the punches, and if you don't have, you know, that thick skin, it does get difficult. Don't get me wrong. There's some times where it's really difficult, and you do lose your cool. But you know, you try not to lose sight of what you're there for. You know, and what we're there for is to put out great food to the guests that come into our cafes. At the end of the day, you know, people understand that it's more about the passion of putting, you know, this food out. It's more about the understanding and the educating of the people that come in. You know, I kind of look at it as, you know, we're one big show. We all have our parts in the show. We all have our places to be. But in order to make that show great for our guests that come in, we all have to perform and do our daily task. And I'm just a conductor. I'm just there to direct.
Do you ever have a customer to say, I want to speak to the head chef, to the executive chef?
Every 13 minutes. Yeah, we have customers we have guests that come in and do that. That's what we're here for.
Right.
You know, I'm more than welcome to talk to anybody that comes in.
Are you on site every day?
Pretty much. Generally, I'm there. If I'm not there, I'm still working, doing other things, whether it's promoting the restaurant, or at a benefit. So generally, my schedule's pretty busy. But if I'm not there, I'm out promoting the restaurant.
Okay. So, when you are not working, what is it that you enjoy doing?
Spending time with my family. Hanging out with my son and my girlfriend. That's the part that kind of, you know, keeps me grounded more than anything. You know, with all the awesome things that have happened to me in the past couple of years, you know, one thing that I am thankful for is my friends and my family, my son, my girlfriend. You know, they're the ones that still treat me the same. They're still the ones that talk about me and joke about and joke on me, and you know, and give me the tough love that I need. So that's the only way I get through it.
Okay. And for the young people who are considering a career in culinary arts, what words of wisdom do you have for them?
Don't give up. It's a tough industry to get into, and it'll be discouraging after a while. But to keep pushing forward. At the same time, understand that, you know, there's a lot more that you have to learn going through this industry. You know, a lot of people get confused about the things that they see on TV or that they see on social media, to where it's like, oh, well, I can make, you know, a cool shrimp plate and I'll be famous the next day. Well, if you're chasing fame, you're in the wrong place. If you're chasing a ton of money, you're in the wrong business, you know. But if you're able to understand why you want to do this and be passionate about it, and if that passion has something to do with putting a smile on somebody else's face other than yours, then you'll go a long way.
Okay.
You know, and then you'll find out, you know, truly what success is in this industry. For me, I'm happy to have served over 700,000 people this year from all over the world. I'm happy that we've been able to be a part of history. I'm happy that I've been able to take 4 dishwashers that I've met 7 years ago and make them lead cooks for me.
That's
Those are the
great.
things that I'm happy and thankful for, and that's what motivates me, and that's what pushes me. I'm happy when my son and my goddaughter and them, like, they see me on TV. They're more excited than I am. For me, it's just normal business. It's just a normal day in my life. But it makes them, it makes everything feel good for me. So, that's why I push through it.
Right, right. Now, are you on Facebook or Twitter?
I'm on Twitter and Instagram
Okay, and you're listed
as at at Chef JG Details.
okay, at Chef
Yep.
JG Details.
CHEFJGDETAILS.
Okay, and do you speak to other organizations and other groups?
So I work with the community a lot. I do Central Union Mission every other month. We go and actually feed our homeless men and help put shoes on their feet. We take care of them. I go down to Anacostia and provide time at the Women's Battered Shelter. At the same time, this year I was a keynote speaker at the Minorities in Agriculture Assembly in Pittsburgh. Anything for the youth. I'm a participant in the CCAP program here in the area. So we actually employ high school culinary students that are going to college to pursue a career in culinary arts. So I actually bring in 2 students every year. So, I give back as much as possible because, I've been given so much.
Right.
And in order to grow our young people, us as leaders in the community, us as leaders in these industries, we all have to be there to really help push them forward. And, like I said, somebody gave me an awesome opportunity. And that's how I got here.
Right.
Don't get me wrong, I worked hard, but I happened to be at the right place at the right time that really propelled all this. And been blessed since then. And the only thing I could do is kind of, really give it back.
Right, right. So for our viewers, it's so very important that you give back to the community. And that's really what, even with the Lofty Group, the consulting company that I oversee, that's what we are here to do, really to focus on the young people and help to develop them professionally. And so I'm curious to know, what leadership challenges, I did ask you in general your challenges, but what leadership challenges have you experienced?
You know, to me, I don't look at them as like leadership challenges. I feel that the way that you push, the way that you actually, sorry, I'm at a loss for words, but as if you do the right things when nobody's looking, the people around you will pick up on the same thing. If you strive for as great a result and push and do those same things, the people around you will eventually pick up on it. So we always just try to continue to do the right things. We try to handle things in a professional manner, and our associates pick up on that. They strive for it. For us, we have a super big job, and even halfway through it, it helped push me that my employees were more into it than I was. They were there when we were working 14-hour days when we first opened up. They got to work before I got to work. They understood how important this was, and it was like, we pushed each other.
Right.
So once you're able to build that relationship, especially with your other associates, your teammates, you'll have nothing but success. We all share the joys at the same time, and we all share the butt kickings at the same time too. But that's what helps us grow.
Right. And so how do you keep everyone motivated? Do you have weekly meetings or incentives? I'm just wondering
So
how
we definitely have daily pre-meals. We talk about the past day's business. We set goals for ourselves. At first, our first goal was to serve at least 4,000 people. Now we do 4,000 people like it's nobody's business. We have little daytime challenges throughout our days, whether we have goals on our prep list of getting X amount of things done and who could do it the fastest. You know, it's those little types of things. But at the same time, you know, we're all self-motivators, you know. I look at it like, you know, you hire the right people, you put the right people in the right places. And, you know, like I said, I've been blessed to have the right people in the right places.
Right. Now, do you have to put together any type of strategic plan for the year, or
Oh,
what
yeah.
is the planning process for the year?
Oh, yeah. I mean, at the end of the day, I still work for a corporate company. So we have our budgets. We have our goals, you know, our wildly crazy goals, and we push forth to get them. And us as operators and us as people that are on the ground, you know, our goal is to figure out how we can get there. So, you know, it takes a lot of planning, a lot of thought, and a lot of creativity to do these things. You know, anything from not just daily, you know, cafe operations, but how can we promote new things? How can we get our guests more involved? How can we get people talking a lot more about what we do here and wanting to come see us? And that's what we do every day. And we tie that to, you know, performance goals. And also we tie that to, you know, our sales.
Mm-hmm.
And we've been doing a lot of great things, you know. We're expected to exceed our first year's goal by a lot. We've done a lot of amazing things in the first year, whether it's, you know, the media, the number of guests that come in. Like, we've done a lot of amazing things. You know, we've been open for 8 months now. We've been nominated for a James Beard Award. We've been in over 220 publications. We've touched over, I think it was the last time, it was like 45 million people. And we've done that in the basement of the African American Museum on 14th and Constitution. And you know, it's an awesome joy to understand that we've done that.
Yeah, so I've been to the museum a couple of times, and each time I've gone to Sweet Home Cafe. And I remember the first time there were so many people there, and I thought, oh my goodness, this is going to take forever to get any kind of food. But I was surprised how quickly the lines moved. And I had my actually, the first time I went, I had my mother with me, and we had some really good catfish, by the way. And the second time, my son and his girlfriend and a couple of friends. But the lines moved very, very quickly. So it seems to be really a well-run machine from top to bottom.
Well, we're still troubleshooting the process, and you know, we're only getting better every day. You know, I remember when we first opened up, the wait was about 1.5 to 2 hours, and now we get people out in a very timely fashion, a matter of 20 minutes or so. And you know, we're learning a lot more about ourselves. We're learning, you know, the whole flow and how everything goes together. So we're able to really push forth and get this machine as oiled as possible.
Yeah. We are very, very grateful for you. And I know that he's introducing a lot of different foods to those who come to the museum. And it seems like you have it divided kind of like by region. And is it post-slavery and pre-slavery?
Yeah, so we kind of look at it. So we have everything identified by regions. We look at it as, you know, pre-slavery and post-slavery. So, you know, you look at the entry states of, you know, Creole Coast all the way to the migration to the north in our northern states area via Underground Railroad. And then you have like our at-home staple, you know, the agricultural South. But then you have the Western Range where, you know, that was after slavery was abolished and a lot of African Americans moved to the West for newer freedoms. Mm-hmm. And you see like a cool fusion over there amongst, you know, Native American people, Latin people, Asian American people that came over. So it's just, you know, it's super exciting. And we're telling these stories that a lot of people, you know, didn't know. You know, people associate African American food with just soul food, but it encompasses so much. We have the diaspora of, you know, all our brothers and sisters
Right.
in our own backgrounds. And at the same time, you know, African Americans, you know, we were the ones that were in kitchens, whether we were slaves or indentured servants. You know, we were there. We provided for these families. We provided for many white families. We provided for our own families. We provided for mass amounts of people. And, you know, a lot of people don't realize that. And we're here to tell those stories. We're here to showcase these foods, you know. And we're doing it day in and day out.
Right. Right. And a lot of those foods have been passed down generation through generation.
Yeah.
And certain foods African Americans eat, it's because there wasn't a choice.
Right. There wasn't a choice. We were given, the things that didn't go to market that people didn't want, and we made, great meals that nourished our bodies and got us through, the hard times. And that kind of that not saying that it actually shows the resiliency of our people, that we're able to, take the tidbits that were given to us and take care of many of us, and we were able to push through and get through our hard times and be where we're at now.
Yeah.
We still have some work to go, but we'll get there.
Okay, alrighty. Well, this is going to conclude the interview with Jerome Grant. And again, Jerome, thank you so much for being on the show today. And again, Career Infusion is brought to you through the Lofty Group. And the Lofty Group is a consulting company that focuses on career development and organizational leadership. We give presentations throughout the country on career development strategies and organizational leadership, such as board development orientations and interviewing techniques, etc. So if you're ever interested in having a representative from the Lofty Group to come to your organization to give a presentation, you can contact us and just go to the website, which is theloftygroup.com. Again, this concludes today's program. Thank you.